Good evening. This is the April 1st, 2024 joint meeting of the excuse me, the JV Fletcher Library Board of Trustees and the Permanent Town Building Committee. The first order of business is roll call. Buffy?
All right. Please tell me if I don't say your name. I'm really trying to catch up with who's here. All right. Claremont?
Here.
Dirk's here. Fleckner not here yet. Is that right?
They're having trouble logging on. Scott Hazelton can't log on.
I'm on. Well, Scott's here.
There you are. Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
wait,
sorry, Scott. I misunderstood.
Okay. Roach?
Here.
Secor?
Here.
Teal?
Here.
Cook?
Here.
Hazelton?
Here.
Karpinski?
Here.
Mahana?
Here.
Roberts? Not yet. Zegowitz?
I don't see Jim either. No.
Okay. Berlinski is not here. Okay, Perkins?
Here.
Liedberg?
Here.
Rainville?
Here.
Goodwin?
Here.
Monks?
Here.
Anzalone?
Here.
Didn't I see? Oh, okay.
Yeah, here.
Sow? Not here
He is,
tonight?
no, he's not here tonight.
Okay. Wilkovich? Not here either?
No, not tonight.
And not Bono Bunker?
No.
Okay.
We
And
do
not
have
you?
Macaja Tucker from Feingold
Okay.
Alexander.
Tucker? Tucker?
Here.
Beck?
Yep.
Thomas? And did I get everyone?
Jean Roberts is here now, Buffy.
Okay, let me check you off. Roberts?
Here.
All right. All right, and we have 3 guests with us. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll just remind everybody that this meeting is being recorded, so all comments either spoken or provided in the chat will become part of the public record. Okay, so the first order of business we have, let me share my screen. So we have approval of minutes. We have 3 meetings that were in your packet. First being February 5th. Can we do all 3 of them as with one vote, or do we have to do them individually?
No, if there's no amendments, we can do them all as one vote.
As one vote, okay. Okay, so meeting minutes for February 5th, was there any discussion? Okay, I'll move on then. Meeting minutes for joint meeting minutes for February 21st. Was there any discussion, comments, or edits? Okay, and then the last was March 11th, 2024. Any comments or edits? Okay, all right. Could I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I have one comment. For the February, the Historical Commission notes. I apologize for not having a chance to read them today. I just want to be sure that Jim Zegowitz is happy with those notes.
What are you referring to?
The Historical Commission notes.
Yeah, but we're not voting on those though.
Oh, I thought those were in the second one.
No, this was just
there.
these are just the
Tom, you
oh,
did.
I'm sorry.
did.
You're right, Gene. I thought that was the joint meetings. Okay. All right, that's
Jim is trying to log on for real.
okay. No, you're right. So that's a different group.
Yeah.
There's really
Uh,
2 minutes to
Right.
approve tonight, Tom.
Right, that's right.
Can we vote on each one separately for the voting? Just because I have to abstain on one of them.
Well, the minutes for February 21st was the joint meeting with the library and historical commission. That was not with the, and there was only,
Right.
we only had a couple representatives from, actually, that was the meeting that was held after the tour, right? So even so Gene and Jim are just listed as guests and weren't part of that meeting. So we're only voting on 2 meetings.
Okay.
um,
The two joint meetings.
The 2 joint meetings,
Got it.
February 5 and March 11th.
correct. Okay, all right, so do I have a motion for joint meeting minutes for February 5th and March 11th?
So moved.
There a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Chris, motion by Nancy. Any further discussion?
I would just say that if someone wasn't there, it's okay if they vote to approve the minutes. Because otherwise, if somebody was at one meeting and not the other, they'd have to abstain,
Mm.
partially abstain, so I think
Okay,
it's okay if someone
yeah,
votes to approve the minutes, as long as they were at one of the meetings.
okay. All right, so Lynn, are you abstaining from
Nope,
from one of
no,
them? Okay,
No, actually, it's the historical commission when I wasn't
Okay.
there.
Okay.
I'm good.
okay, all right. So let's do the roll call for the 2 meeting minutes, Buffy.
Okay, let me clarify that if you're voting affirmatively, you are voting for both whether you were there or not. Is that right, Tom?
Correct.
Okay, here we go. Claremont, Dirks, aye. Fleckner, not here yet. Roach,
Aye.
Secor,
Aye,
Teal,
Aye.
Cook,
Aye.
Hazelton,
Aye.
Karpinski,
Aye.
Mahana,
Aye.
Roberts,
I,
Zegowitz is,
Aye.
good, you're here. Okay. So that's 11-0-0.
Right.
And Buffy, Mary Ann is here. She's
Okay.
listed as, she's on the phone as an attendee. I just gave her permission to talk,
Okay.
but I don't
so
know if she can.
Ellen, help.
I do see her texting through, but I'm not sure that she has volume, and I think she needs to be heard in order to cast a vote.
I believe she has to.
Mary Ann
She
is
has
saying
to-
she can't vote.
She can
Okay,
hear, but she's having trouble.
okay. So 11-0-0.
Okay. All right, great. All right, so next order of business is approval of warrants, invoices, and change orders.
What about the historical commission?
Well, do you have to vote on that with the historical commission? I mean, that's not the permanent town building committee.
Yeah.
we can do that on the trustees meeting.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
we won't, Jim and I won't be there at that meeting.
It was approved by the trustees on March 4th, but we can discuss it tonight.
Okay, so
Well,
all right, let's discuss it then if there's any because for the 2 members from the permanent town building committee that were present. So all right, so why don't we so let's just review the minutes for the joint library and historical commission meeting for March 4th. So Jean, you had some comments.
Yeah, I think that the number 5A through H are a little light in their discussion points. A, for instance, says how to keep or reuse granite. I think it was stated that we want that granite to be visible. Same with the arch brick ceiling in the current staff room at level 1. Can this be saved? We really want that to be visible and saved and not blown out in the construction project. Woodwork and pilasters in entryway. We really wanted to make a statement about that area where the old fire door was, the sliding door, and we wanted that to be a real memory point and a special place in the building. And then we also talked about the Mary Atwood room, that the skylight needs work, that we want better lighting in that room, more historical lighting. The casework, if it's historical, needs to be preserved, and I don't think it says that in this discussion points. And we also talked about making sure at the next historical commission meeting with the trustees, the architect is there so we can point things out to both the historic commission and the architect.
Are these recommendations or are these things you're saying have to be done? If they are just absolutely not possible, is there an alternative?
Well, it would need to be discussed. This is the historical commission requested these things, and they have to approve the project, don't they?
Yes, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
But
So,
if it's just structurally not possible, that just has to be figured out, right?
well, it may be that the design needs to have some adjustments to make sure that the historical features remain intact.
Okay.
Nothing is impossible.
But cost wise is also a consideration, correct?
And that may be a consideration, but it might be that adjusting the plans a little bit might save some of the things.
Yep.
I think
Got
those certainly, if I could just chime in real quickly, I think certainly those things are all part of it. Yeah, we have to, excuse me, have to certainly consider the costs. But I think that if in the case of something like the granite walls or some of the other historical features and aspects of the building are to be lost in the demolition, I think that's something that we need to be clear on and why. Some of the just from my personal standpoint, some of the things that some of the design moves that have been made are they're all going to be very expensive. It's a very expensive project. It's very invasive to the existing building. However, locations of proposed it's difficult for me as a designer to sink my teeth into an argument that some of these saving some of the historic aspect of the building is difficult due to structural implications when we're putting staircases and elevator shafts in the existing part of the building. So, and perhaps things like that are more cost effective, but I would love to hear an explanation of things like that. If because I do think that maintaining a certain amount of recognition historically is important to the building and to the whole project. And it seems like a very big, very involved project. Let's at least have the discussion.
I think that's very clear. That's good.
Well, so how was it left with the historic commission? So I see here under the discussion that to schedule a future joint meeting. So, and I know we have representatives from Feingold, Alexander, on the call tonight. So how was it left as far as the next steps? I mean, so, are we kind of in a holding pattern here before we move on to the next phase of the design? So Gene and Jim have raised some comments and concerns, from the PTBC perspective. So where do we go from here?
Well, I was hoping at the end of that meeting, I was under the impression that there was going to be some sort of consideration given to that. We would have some kind of outreach from the design team to either explain, why things couldn't be handled or what some modifications could be done, something. But I haven't heard anything.
Can I just chime in?
But I don't know,
Howard?
maybe somebody else has.
Can I just chime in, Ellen from
Sure.
Feingold Alexander? So, you were correct. What we did, we're on hold right now until we get, approval to move to DD, but we did go out there last week. Did some more detailed documentation of what's there and what's available for us to see. So yeah, the idea is that once we restart, we will come back to the historic folks and talk some things through, or all the things through.
Perfect.
That's the plan.
Yeah, and I think that's what we were all
Mhm.
under the understanding of how things would proceed. So
Yeah.
great, thank you.
Sue, you have a question, Sue Thomas?
I just wanted, thank you. I just wanted to volunteer. I had a brief conversation with the sustainability Rebecca person at Feingold Alexander about deconstruction, and if I can supply resources or information about how to preserve the historic pieces and any other resources that we want to preserve through this process, I'm happy to participate. Just let me know.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just add one more thing, everybody?
Sure.
I
Go
did
ahead,
want
Jim.
to just try and to clarify this. There's nothing, I think in any of our discussions in the past or in the recent past here that says that any of this stuff will change. I think it's just I would certainly like a little bit more in-depth investigation as is being done right now, and some explanations and discussions about the possibilities of these things as we move forward. So I don't want to give the impression that we're throwing up roadblocks and we don't like this and we don't like that. It's just, I think there's a bigger story that can be woven into the project, and hopefully we can incorporate some of these things as we were looking at. It may be utterly impossible. I don't know, but let's look it over.
Okay, so it sounds to me like, all right, so so we'll have continued discussion on these items moving forward. And that possibly maybe at the next working group meeting, maybe that these items can be discussed further.
Is it true that they'll be actually included in the detailed design, those discussions? Is that fair to say?
Is that a question for me?
Yeah.
Yes, Lynn, I think, yes, as this project moves forward, the design team will work and review with the historic commission. They'll have meetings with them as the design moves forward. Absolutely, during design development. Yes.
Sounds good.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
And I just want to point out that one of the areas that we were most concerned about was where the new handicap ramp is going at the current, basically inside the front door. It seems like that is the oldest part of the building and part of that needs to be the most beautiful and retained. And there's a handicap ramp right going, perpendicular to that front entrance. So that's one thing that we really would like to see
Yeah.
moved.
Jean, that point was well taken in our discussion.
Okay.
Noted.
Okay, thank you. It just wasn't in these meeting notes.
Okay, that's in ours.
Okay.
So just so that we can avoid like any further delays here, so have we scheduled, has there been another meeting scheduled with the Historic Commission? Because I'd hate to see this continue to go down one path and that this group kind of comes to some consensus, but then historic may object or may not agree. So I'm just,
We haven't planned any future meetings because the design team has been on hold. As soon as they have permission to proceed, we'll set up meetings.
Yep,
Okay.
for sure.
To clarify, who's putting the hold on?
Well, I think,
Is there a hold on the project?
well, Feingold Alexander has essentially, they're waiting for this group to give them authorization to proceed to the next phase, correct?
And right now, the mechanical system is the big decision that needs to be made.
Yeah.
To know how
Okay,
the
okay,
design
good.
team is to proceed.
Great. Sorry, just, I don't want,
That's okay.
I guess what I would like to be, what I'm somewhat sensitive of is that I don't want us to be stopping your work. If this is something we need an evaluation for the mechanical equipment, then that's one thing. But I think the design of and incorporation of the historic elements into the project, I'm hoping that is something that is put in stream, not a wall that stops us, and then we take a left turn to incorporate that stuff.
Mhm.
Is that fair to say? Is that an accurate assessment?
That's
Yeah.
fair.
Okay. Can I also just would say, I think at this point, maybe we reach out to the historic people and let them know things. Were they invited to this meeting?
No,
Um,
because this meeting is,
just
the
too much?
primary reason is to vote on
You're
the
Okay.
HVAC system and the mechanical design. That's
Right,
what's
okay.
blocking us from going to detailed design.
Very good, thank you.
Nancy, you have a question? Nancy Cook?
I do. I know Jim said he didn't want this to be the delay, but there's a significant amount of concerns that Jean spoke of in Jim tonight that don't they need to be addressed before we go any further?
I think they're gonna be, so they're gonna be part of the next phase, the detailed design. They will have to be right at the beginning of that, really.
correct.
But for the very first thing we need to do is decide which heating and cooling system we're gonna go with. That once we agree on that and vote on that, that's the trigger for the next phase. And that's when right then is when the historical commission has to be engaged.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Okay, so we are not voting on these minutes, but it's, so I was incorrect before. I said they were minutes from March 4th. They were minutes from February 21st, but the Library Commission has already approved them at their March 4th meeting. Has the Historic Commission also approved these minutes?
No, they haven't seen these minutes, and I don't know if they were taking their own minutes or not.
Okay,
So we'll have to share these in the future.
okay. Okay, let's move on. So, so the next item is approval of warrants, including invoices for the OPM, for the geothermal, and for Feingold Alexander. Okay, let's move forward onto that. So under the warrant, sorry, while I apologize for scrolling around here. Okay, so we have 3 invoices on the warrant. First is for CHA Consulting, the amount of $5,500. Second is for Feingold Alexander in the amount of $23,100. And that is for their sub-consultant completing the test bore, and then the Feingold Alexander invoice for $15,866.05, and that's for professional design services. So total of the warrant for this meeting is $44,466.05. I'll just scroll quickly through the invoice. This is the invoice for CHA. This is the invoice for the test bore. Was that 100% completion of the test bore? Or was that progress?
That's 100%.
It's the second
100%.
half. The first
Yeah,
half is for
second
the
half.
actual bore to the Welling Company. This is for the second half. And yes, this would be the second and final payment.
Okay, thank you. And then this is Feingold Alexander for 100% completion of the schematic design. Okay. All right, let's can I get a motion to approve the warrant for tonight's meeting for 3 invoices for $44,466.05.
So moved.
Have a motion by Nancy Cook. Could I have a second?
I'll
Second.
second.
A second by Lynn Claremont. Is there any further discussion? Okay, roll call, Buffy.
Yep. Claremont,
I,
Dirks, I, Fleckner is not voting. She is here though. Roach,
Aye.
Secor,
Aye.
Teal,
I,
Cook,
Aye.
Hazelton,
Aye.
Karpinski,
Aye.
Mahana,
Aye.
Roberts,
Aye.
Zigowitz,
Aye.
10-0-0.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so we want to, as part of this mechanical discussion, so in your packets was a summary of the thermal conductivity of the test bore. I'm not a PhD. I'm not going to be the one that's going to explain this. I don't know if anybody wants to volunteer that. Mr. Karpinski, is
There was a-
this
there
up
was a
your alley?
There was a separate and short memo.
I did see that, yes.
Okay.
And
Yes.
Ken Beck is here tonight too to
Oh,
talk
okay.
us through anything.
Okay, Ken, do you want to give us a summary on the test bore?
Yeah, so originally we estimated 25 wells for this project, 500 feet deep wells, 15 feet on center. The conductivity report came back better than what we had assumed. And it looks like we will be able to eliminate 2 wells from the system based on this test results. But that will be dependent on the modeling that the geothermal designer does for the well fill. But based on the information I'm seeing here, it looks like 2 wells will be able to be eliminated.
And one is already done, right?
One is already paid for, yes.
So
And what depth did
22
they end up?
additional.
What depth did they end up at?
500 feet.
500.
They
So what
found
kind of a area are we talking about here for 23 to 25 wells?
I think we laid it out previously on a plan. It's mostly the parking area, including some of the drive area. So it's really kind of constrained to this parking area around the building.
Does the finding granite at 11 feet from the surface, does that concern the project with respect to foundation work for the building itself?
I think that's a good question. We'll do a little more investigating on that, but you know how granite is. It could be high one place and low another place. But I will go back and check our records. Alicia, I can't recall if we had finished the test pits we were going to do previously.
I don't recall either off the top of my head.
Right,
Sorry.
so for the foundations, we're not creating a basement, which is a good thing, right? So what we're doing, our new floor out in the back will be at grade. So if it's 11 feet down, that's not an issue for us.
Right, we're only going probably 4 more. 6 maybe.
Yeah, 6 max probably by the time all said and done.
And I'll check. I think we did test bores during the planning and design grant.
Thank you.
We did.
I think we had that on our plan.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anything more on this report that anybody wanted to comment or ask questions on? Okay, Ken, I'm going to put you on the spot here. So what level of confidence do you have that this will be successful?
Oh, it's definitely will be successful. I mean, these are good measurements, and you know, we're getting a little better conductivity than we took as a conservative view. So the geothermal system of this in a granite site is going to be very successful.
Okay, thank you. Scott Hazelton, you have a question?
Yeah, just assume that I'm ignorant because I am. So if you're drilling holes in the parking lot, right, and we're gonna be parking cars there, so does this like, have piping like under the asphalt? I mean, I guess I'm not.
Yeah. So the horizontal piping will be probably 4 to 6 feet below the surface, and then we'll go vertical from there.
And I guess, I mean, maybe we aren't there yet, but you know, we had discussed the potential that we'd have to expand, you know, interior spaces for mechanicals and piping and so forth. And we also had some, you know, budget numbers. Were those inclusive of the re-engineering, if you will, or was that just the
Yeah, there's
drilling
no
only?
there's no engineering on my increased engineering on my side. We will have to have a geothermal designer do the well field. And we did look at the interior dimensions of the mechanical spaces as well. After our last meeting, with some minor modifications, we should be able to make those spaces work.
Okay, so
Agreed,
the
Ken.
cost is out. We're not looking at a big cost to redo anything on the inside because of this.
No, not at all.
No.
Gene Roberts?
On that same subject about the inside mechanical room, what is the approximate square footage additional that you're going to need for that mechanical space?
So when we looked at it, the current layout had the mechanical room and the tel data closet on top of it. We wanted to expand into the tel data closet and relocate the tel data closet to another space. So there would seem to be some space in that area that we could do that. So it wasn't a significant increase at all.
Okay, thanks.
Chris Karpinski?
Just a quick question. Is the architect design firm familiar with noise control and vibration control if the heat pumps are inside the building?
So we are planning water-to-water heat pumps in the mechanical room. So those will be all vibrationally isolated. We're not doing water-to-air inside the occupied spaces where we would be introducing compressors in the occupied spaces. So all the noise producing equipment would be in the mechanical room.
Great, and I just want to be sure, since that's on the same level as other spaces, that the noise control is taken into consideration.
Yeah, we'll have to do some mitigation.
Yep, thank you.
Hey, Ken, will there be structures over, will all these wells have like structures or accessible from the parking lot?
No, they'll be completely buried. There are closed loop wells with some like a cementitious fiber that goes around the pipe, and it's just buried in the ground. Unless there's a big seismic event, you shouldn't have any issues with the piping and well system. The well system's expected to last 50+ years.
Okay. All right. If nobody has any other questions regarding the test report, why don't we move right into the options? So these are the options. So Ken, are you gonna walk us through these?
Sure. So basically, I just want to be clear that in terms of these options, the VRF, that $4.1 million was carried in the estimate that you have. So that was the baseline mechanical system. So that is part of the current estimate. So those estimated construction costs would be like for the air source heat pumps, the differential would be what would be incremental to the project. So VRF is 4.2 basically, air source heat pumps 4.75, and then ground source heat pumps 5.76. And then we go over to the Mass Haven IRA direct payments. You can see the differentials and rebates and the IRA actually bring the ground source heat pumps back in to be the lowest first cost for the project. And then the annual operating costs actually are even better in that scenario because the VRF is the lowest, then it's the air source, well, VRF is second lowest, then the air source heat pumps and the ground source heat pumps are ultimately the lowest operating costs. The important thing to remember with the rebates in IRA direct payment is those come after the project is complete.
Okay.
Did we, I think we discussed this, but I could use a refresher. Did we talk about whether that creates a cash flow problem in the project?
Well, I see Ellen has her hand up, so I don't know, maybe
Yeah.
Ellen, can you address that?
So that is why I have my hand up, Chair Claremont. So with the reduced number of geothermal wells, one already in hand, the differential between the 4.2 million in the budget for VRF and the geothermal option reduces down to more like $1.5 million in upfront costs. And this is what we're grappling with here, is that we have to front that 1.5 million before at the very end of the project we get the IRA direct payment and the mass save, which comes in two different portions back. So today I was talking with the Board of Library Commissioners building consultant, who was reaching out to the Bureau of Accounts and the Division of Local Services, because we're not the only project looking at this issue. And Wednesday, I'm meeting with the town manager and Dan, the finance director, because this does create a bulge in the budget where we have to front the money, and then it only comes back to be a reimbursement against the bond payment, after the ribbon cutting and after the performance measures are shown. So, I mean, it's really up to the boards tonight if you want to, take a vote to proceed with this as a favorite while we grapple with what the options are to front the money, so that there's not only savings in terms of net costs, but savings in terms of life cycle maintenance and operational costs. That's what we're really dealing with here, is how to float the funds up front so that our net costs are the lowest and our ongoing costs are the most efficient and beneficial. And we don't have that answer quite yet.
Oh, okay.
All right. We got people lined up here, so we'll start with Jim Zagowitz.
So I was just curious if about the rebate programs. Ken, maybe you can talk to this or anybody else. I've been hearing a lot of rumbling that the Mass Save stuff is disappearing after mid-year this year. Does anybody know how that's going to affect our longer or much longer term rebates?
I believe we have a signed agreement with them, so that doesn't apply to us, but I will confirm that.
And I thought I saw Sue Thomas with her hand up. I don't know, Sue, can you add anything to that?
No, I was just going to say the same thing with the Mass Save. We have a signed agreement, so it should be set, but it never hurts to double check. I just wanted to contribute that I am doing some sort of broad surveys of how this is being handled across other communities with very similar projects, and turning up some avenues that we haven't yet explored that I'll be sharing with the group that's meeting Wednesday, in case they're of use to the town for either bridge financing or outright granting of money.
Okay, Scott, you had your hand up, you took it down. Did you have
You know,
anything?
I had two questions. So one is, so that I guess is the problem that the incremental 1.5 million puts us over the town meeting bonding limit?
That's part of it.
Okay, because I mean, I know Christine can get pretty innovative with how to time, bonds in terms of bridging things. But yeah, if it's a relative to the total amount, that's a different problem entirely, which I understand. Only so much magic you can work. Only so much magic you can work with that one. But the other question was, how, I guess, reliable are these, cost estimates? I just know that if those have been around for a while in Westford, we've done all these projects with typically state grants on typically schools, and we never see the cost savings that we are projected. And we don't really care in those senses because it was grant money that didn't, cost the taxpayer anything. So any gain was a net plus. But in this case, we're looking at, differences of millions of dollars. So I was curious how accurate these projections tend to be.
Anybody want to address that?
FA, does someone from FA want
Yeah.
to go first before I?
Yeah, Ken, do you want to?
Well,
You're looking at the
yes.
rebate numbers?
No,
Yes?
the estimated costs,
Okay.
construction costs. So I would say right now we are at a pretty aggressive
No,
escalation.
I was thinking of the maintenance costs, maintenance costs, because we're assuming it's long run
Oh, yeah.
decline, but is that based upon, how many projects are out there look like this upon which to make these projections?
So a lot of this has been taken from ASHRAE data, which is, takes a look at, thousands of projects and of different types and sizes and complexity. And so they categorize things by, libraries, certain sizes. And so that data is published every year. And so I put that data together and put an escalator on it based on when the data was taken and also when we're planning to be in effect as well. So I had a pretty aggressive escalation rate on it because right now we're in a pretty aggressive escalation period.
Okay, fair enough. As long as we've got a good source. Okay, that's good. Thanks.
And this, do we, and who wants to address, are we considering going with solar at this point or not?
It doesn't appear to make financial sense, I believe. At this time, the building will be solar ready by code.
That's correct. Solar ready.
The rebates at this time are not favorable. Doesn't mean that tide won't turn at some point, but at this time, they are not favorable.
Within the budget, you mean, right? It doesn't fit within the budget, not that it's.
Because we're not getting any incremental, any increase in the rebate with the rebates by going with solar.
Well, actually, we should. So maybe we should talk about that. I'm not sure exactly what you factored in there. For example, I suspect strongly that the estimated IRA payment doesn't include some things that, based on what our neighbors are seeing in some of their analysis, it doesn't take into account some of the soft costs. But I need to go back and do some fact checking with the rest of the team about that.
Sue, sorry, this is Rebecca. That's correct. What we did for the purposes of this analysis, because it was the most fair, it was the best approximation we could make at the time with the information that we had, which was to take 35% of the HVAC cost. That's hard cost. So no, we did not include potential other.
And so I think that is a very conservative way of estimating what we would expect to get back on the geothermal. And if we did the same thing with the solar, it's possible there might be more room there. Also with a program that gives you money for the generation of that power over the years that you have it. So there may be a little more play in those numbers that's in our favor, is saying that these are conservative, but I support a conservative analysis in this case, given that these things are still relatively new. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Solar also isn't as time sensitive, I'll say, is the geothermal. I'll just point that out.
Right, as Alicia
Right,
said.
because we can add it any time.
Right,
Correct.
exactly.
Okay, Gene Roberts,
Um,
question?
yeah, wasn't the solar issue a problem because of our roof and the amount of space that could fit solar panels?
No,
No?
we have some room on the new addition to put them.
Okay, I thought it wasn't an efficient amount of,
Well, it's not a huge amount, Jean, no.
okay.
But it's something that some libraries that we've done, Framingham, for instance, they did it later. And it doesn't cover all the costs, but it helps.
Okay, thanks.
What was the estimated power that was gonna be generated from that? Was what
Do you
was the
recall,
size of the
Ken?
array gonna be?
Boy, I forget. Was it 100 kilowatts? I forget.
Oh, it was gonna be that much?
I think 75.
Oh, maybe. Okay.
Well, even 75, it's not too bad. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not ready to rule it out myself, but I think that you don't need to make that decision tonight.
Okay. Ellen had her hand up. It looks like she walked away for a second. Question for Sue Thomas.
Well,
Where does the, I don't think we have anybody from Clean Energy. I'm assuming you represent Clean Energy?
Beth is here too.
I'm here. Go to library.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And library working group.
I don't have everybody up on my screen, so I can't see everybody. I'm
Well,
sorry.
actually, one of the points I was going to make is that the actual recommendation.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second, Beth. Ellen, can you mute?
You just did.
Ellen, can you mute? Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Beth.
Well, I was going to make the point that certainly when you look at the spreadsheet that was provided for us, the recommended option is with solar, and that ends up with the lowest 30-year cost, right?
Correct.
I don't know why the comment was made that solar isn't going to provide cost savings in the long term when the spreadsheet indicates that it does and that it's the recommended option.
Can I just chime in, Beth? So we have two. We have an option with solar and without solar, right? And I think, Alicia, you can comment on where it is budget-wise, but that we don't have to make that decision. We can wait until we're even in CDs and we can see if we can find any more funding or, do anything more for, to help us with that.
I understand what you're saying, Ellen, and that's why I didn't bring it up initially, but I just didn't want it, it to be said that at this point, it doesn't look like there are cost savings with solar, because I think the data that we have in front of us says there are, but I totally understand we don't have to decide that tonight.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have any other questions or comments regarding the recommendations for the HVAC system? So the recommendation is to go with the ground source heat pumps with, which may or may not include solar, but at least the building will be, required regardless, has to be designed to be solar ready anyway, regardless of which system we proceed with. So as we proceed along with design and we get further information on the IRA and the rebates, that will finalize. So I guess just for my own knowledge here, so we talked earlier about going with the ground source heat pumps and the modifications that need to be made to the space to accommodate the equipment. So you're looking for a recommendation to move forward tonight. The recommendation from Ken and the design team is to go with the ground source heat pumps. So just so I'm clear and the rest of us are clear. So this modification that you need to make to the design to accommodate this is minor. There's not any major space, change to the space design.
Oh, minor.
Yeah,
Minor.
that's correct. So the actual engineering between the two systems is not going to be any different costs other than the well field, and whatever's inside the building we can accommodate by moving things around.
And I'm assuming that the town will be able to confirm within, well, Ellen's back. I was just gonna ask Ellen that within the short term, the town will be able to confirm on the financial side of things. To, if we proceed with the ground source heat pumps.
Yeah, so you might want to make the vote conditional on, addressing and confirming the upfront costs and the rebates. I'm so sorry. Mike Wells called me because from one point on the town website, the link on our agenda takes you to the Recycling Commission, not from the agenda page. Both meetings are posted correctly, but from the calendar page. So he was concerned, and but if you're starting from our posted agendas, you are brought to this meeting. So, but if you want to make the vote conditional on addressing the issues of financing and rebate timing, then hopefully by the end of the week we'll know more about that.
Does anybody have any comments or concerns with that type of approach for this?
Can we also include our runner-up if it can't be worked out?
Okay, what's plan B? I guess that's a good question.
Plan B,
Isn't
Plan B the VRF system that we have in the base drawings?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay. Jim Zagowitz?
Well, oh, I'm sorry, I was yakking in my own ear. Ellen, could you repeat that so I'm not talking over you? That I can hear what you said.
Ellen Anceloni, for me, you mean, Jim?
No,
Ellen
Jim.
Rainville?
Yeah, so Jim, basically what Ellen Rainville was suggesting or recommending is that if we vote tonight to recommend going with the ground source heat pumps, that we make it basically a conditional recommendation based on, the town being able to confirm all the financial commitments as part of this, because, as we discussed earlier, this, the estimated construction costs for option 3 years could cause budgetary issues, so we still need some time. Ellen needs some time to work with the town manager and the finance director and the design team to figure out how how we'll be able to make that work while still proceeding with that option.
It is a cash flow problem. It's that you're paying upfront a higher cost, and the full rebating to pay back the bond won't occur until the end of the project. And that's why Kristen and Dan, we want to have a special meeting on this, so we really understand if that is feasible. Otherwise, we know we have the VRF system, which is fully funded in the budget.
Would it not be prudent to put the vote off until we get the information? If it's only going to be a week?
Yes.
Yeah, that's my point, because I remember, a couple of months ago, DD couldn't start because the size of the utility room wasn't known. And here, the existing utility room will work fine for either system. So why does this question need to be answered to start DD is my question.
What?
For mechanically, they're two completely different systems.
But understood, but DD for the building, you just
No,
had to size the mechanical room, correct? Wasn't
No,
that?
but
2 months ago?
We can't start design development without knowing what kind of mechanical system, because from day one, we're coordinating with the mechanical. We need to know what the system is. We can't.
Okay, it was my understanding last time it was just sizing the mechanical room, but it sounds like it's more complex than that.
Last time that we were not allowed to proceed because of this test bore we had to do, which was fine. And we got some good results from that. So that's what we were waiting. That's what we're waiting on, the decision of which way to go.
I think Chris is right, though. I think we postponed when we didn't have the information for how big the interior room was going to be. And if it's only a week, I think we should wait also.
I'd actually think we should think about doing a conditional vote, because if the town can work out the financing and the cash flow, then we've made our decision. And if they can't, then we have our plan B also decided. So I don't think we need to wait.
Either way, the design cannot proceed if that's the case, though.
But
So
we
why
don't-
not wait?
And none of the work with
We
the
don't have to
historic.
meet again. Do we have to meet again? If we don't vote, we'll have to meet again to vote.
And we would need everybody's commitment that they could meet in a week. These meetings have been tough to organize. That's my concern.
Yeah.
Okay, Beth Perkins, and then Scott.
Yes, I'd like to bring up the fact that we did add, and I don't have the data with me right now, but we did add, I believe, $2.5 million to this project for clean energy and sustainability. It was voted on at town meeting, and I believe within that 2 million, 2.3, that a 1.5 or somewhere between 1 and 1.5 million was for geothermal. So I don't know where in the budget those numbers are, but we did already approve funding for over $2 million for sustainability, and a large part of that was for geothermal.
So I can actually share the actual number was 3.350 million, but that number is it's embedded throughout the building. That includes insulation, that includes glazing of windows, that includes internal storms, that includes the solar ready roof that is being planned. So I was doing the same type of analysis, Beth, to see exactly how much that offered us. And I think the budget might have to be a little bigger for us to look at it together.
So that item is right here. That's at added energy efficiencies, 3.35 million.
Yes, and at least half of it was for geothermal.
Okay, so this updated budget that was sent out in our packet has not does or does not include the potential for increased construction cost going with the ground source heat pumps.
It does not include ground source heat pumps. The cost estimate for the construction was based on VRF.
Okay, so that's where we run into the cash flow problem. Okay, all right,
Because
Scott.
part of the problem
go
also,
ahead.
I believe the ultimate problem is that this budget was approved in October of 22, and there have been, as we all know, significant cost increases since that time, a year and a half ago. And the VRF fit in the budget, the base budget, but geothermal did not.
Correct. Okay, Scott Hazelton.
So we have an agreement with Mass Save. I guess we assumed the votes. We got the answer from Mass Save in writing that they're committed to this much money or some amount of money.
Does,
We don't have a specific system. We have a pathway of efficiencies, and with those efficiencies within those goals, we didn't have to, at the time of signing it, we did not have to commit to a particular mechanical system. It did give us sort of pathway saying if this would choice A or choice B, these would be the available rebates.
So
So,
we-
but
we
you
had-
had, but the three choices that were on the sheet earlier that were BRF, I forgot the air pump, and the geothermal were the three options. They're limited to those three on the mass save option, and that's it. So in the signed agreement is you're gonna pick one of these if
Okay.
you want money back. We did not have to commit to a particular system. It's just they only offer rebates for those three systems. That's why
Yeah, but-
only those three systems were reviewed.
and they,
Okay, I guess so, but I was thinking in terms of, I guess if you will, our liability in terms of this.
Right.
So if we have a letter of intent, if you will, from Mass Save that essentially commits to the money, do we have anything similar from, was it DOE for the IRA piece?
No,
Okay.
no, they
No.
they don't provide that.
no, it's
It-
it's considered an entitlement though.
Yes.
If you meet the requirements, and that's where the key is making sure we maintain that eligibility throughout the process. And similar, it's sort of similar with Mass Save. We have a signed commitment, but the building has to perform according to the specs. So it has to conform with one of these designs in order for us to get the money. That's the stick that goes with the carrot.
Yeah, I
Don't
guess
they have to have the money?
my worry is that we commit to a go forward because we have every reason to expect the money to cover it, and then if anything goes wrong, we don't have the money to cover it, but we've still incurred the cost. And
And the state has no money.
Well,
unless we're able to sit to the feds actually, because we're, yes, entitlement, but it's authorized by Congress, so it's not at the whim of executive orders, but
well, and it's been appropriated for 10 years worth supposedly of projects for this. So,
that's as long, really that's between Dan and Christine and Chris. I was trying to get my hand around just what we have guaranteed and what we have at risk, and it's not. I'm not loving the answer, but it's an answer.
But can they really get this resolved in like another week, Scott?
That's what I'm really wondering is that's why if we had like ironclad guarantees the money is out there, and we could probably, I'm guessing, work with bond counsel how that might work out, but if it's not guaranteed, I don't know.
It was my understanding at one of the meetings, I don't remember if it was Mass Save, someone said the money had already been appropriated. It would not go away.
that is my understanding at both the state and the federal level. And the town and this team have discussed hiring the appropriate financial and legal expertise to ensure that the entire team is able to comply with the eligibility requirements throughout the project.
I guess to Tom's point, we're not going to have that legal and financial team answer before a week, right? So,
well, no, we would have the commitment to hire them, I guess, or to procure their services. I'm not sure how the procurement would work, but yeah.
So you're saying the money's there, but we have to make sure that we apply correctly to get it. Is that right?
We need to manage the project to maintain our eligibility throughout the project, either by making sure the building performs according to Mass Save's requirements. And that's why we have a Mass Save partnership that has been signed and agreed to by all parties. And then with regard to the federal money, why it is prudent to have the right expertise on board working with this team to make sure that we retain and maximize that eligibility. And what I was trying to say earlier is that it's my opinion, based on my understanding, and I am not a tax or legal advisor, that we have estimated this low enough for the IRA money that I would expect that we haven't accounted for everything in this number, and therefore this number should be fairly comfortable. Am I saying that in a way that makes sense?
Are
I
you
think that-
implying that potentially that number could be more at the end when it?
I believe the
when it's all
IRA
said and
money
done?
could be more before, when everything is said and done, yes. And there's also a couple of grant resources that I've turned up in the last couple of days that I need to explore more fully to see if there are opportunities for us. And that's why we're not ready to nail the financial piece down. We still have some more things we need to investigate.
And we don't yet know what the legal tax expertise would cost. Isn't that true, Sue? That's still an unknown.
I need to do more homework. I don't have enough numbers to be confident that I know, have a good estimate yet. I have a few.
But isn't the tax advisor part of, there's a grant for that as well? I believe, or some of it?
I need to confirm that, to be honest, that
It's sticking in my
some
head,
people
but-
say there is, some people say there isn't. I'd like to see it in writing before I say anything about that.
Fair enough.
So, yeah.
Well, from my perspective, I'm not, and Scott, I'm going to defer to you on this one because I don't know how this group can actually make this commitment.
I know, with no money.
I mean, I almost feel like this is something that has to be approved by the Board of Selectmen. Like, how can we,
Yeah.
as a joint group, approve something that's
Exceeds the
right?
limit.
It exceeds the available appropriation. So we're in quite a crossroads here. I mean, we need to proceed on to, the next phase of the design and give our design team the authorization to proceed, but we certainly can't, we can't make that. I don't feel that we can make that commitment. I mean, do you agree?
Well, we can make a recommendation. So, I mean, I think Lynn's correct. If you have a contingency, I mean, if you went to the select board or when, I think, because you're right, we can't exceed numbers that are from town meeting without going to the select board, but they'll ask, what was the vote of this committee or this task force? So I think it's fine to make the recommendation with the select board expect that. But yeah, we are at the mercy here of what Kristen and company can work out and what the select board will approve.
It's a conditional recommendation, right? Based on their findings.
Could we just all agree to come back next week after the selectmen's meeting? I'd feel more comfortable. We've been yelled at before for voting for things, sending things to the Board of Selectmen that exceeded the budget. Remember, Tom? So I'm not comfortable voting for something that exceeds our budget at this point. I'll guarantee I'll come back next week.
But I think you can vote on a recommendation. I think the. select board can do that.
We did
Yeah,
that, Alicia. We did do that, Alicia. That's exactly what we did. And we took it to the Board of Selectmen and said this, and Tom took a bashing for it.
All right, you got to
So
help me out. What do you my memory isn't as good
Making
as
a
yours.
recommendation?
What
the
was
the fire station, the brick fire.
Oh, yes. Okay.
But I think the difference is that in that case, we were going over the budget and assuming we need to find money someplace else. In this case, we're discussing a allocation of funding problem, not a budget problem. So we have an interim blip where we go over the line, but there's every belief that there's sufficient funds to cover that blip, which I think that's a little different question than what we had with the fire station. But it has to be a recommendation. I don't know what.
Don't the selectmen,
But can we,
select board need a recommendation from us?
Yeah, I would say I would typically, the board is going to ask the question, what did the underlying committee recommend? We don't want to go to the agenda on the 9th of which is the next select board meeting, have them say what the committee want to do, and then scramble to get another vote. I think we want to have the recommendation in hand, being completely honest that we recognize there is this short-term budget and balance. There is some risk to this, and we need to have Kristen and Dan and Christine figure out if it's even doable, but if,
And if it's
Agreed.
not doable, then we're recommending the BRF.
right, so
Yeah.
I guess I would hope the board would not, well, as vice chair of the select board, I would not yell at Tom over a recommendation that we believe is in fact ultimately funded.
Okay.
Glenn, did you have anything more to add? No? Okay. Okay, did anybody else have any? Jim Zagowitz.
I would just offer that it seems like we're our backs are somewhat against the wall to make a decision tonight on something that would seem to me, and I hate when people say this to me when I'm designing, but there are a couple of other things that we could do in the very short term with regards to addressing some historic concerns and things like that while these concerns are being addressed, in parallel up at different offices. Is that something that we'd be interested in considering, or the designers might be able to consider? I think it seems, especially given the political
We can't.
climate today that we all know is going on in the town, for us to recommend something that is on its face pushing us over the budget at the beginning seems a little awkward.
Jim, we can't proceed without getting the full thing because it's not efficient. It just doesn't work.
Understood. Okay.
I wish I'm always trying to be accommodating, and I just can't on this. For instance, on the drilling, we've already paid the drilling guys because they wouldn't have done it without us paying them. So we're trying to really keep this moving, but we can't start design development without a full approval.
Okay, I was just hoping that we could address some of the historic things that we were trying to incorporate into
No,
the
we
building
can't.
short term.
We can't
But
because
if we can't do that without understanding what kind of HVAC system
No,
we're
it's
gonna
not
incorporate in the
efficient.
building, then I get it.
It's not that, it's the efficiency of the team.
The other thing, if they can't figure out a way to handle the cash flow, it's just not gonna happen. Right? It is pretty black and white. It's not a maybe. If they don't have the money, they don't have the money.
But I guess, so that's part of my whole thing is that Ellen, the design team can't move. I don't think it's prudent for them to move forward at all, period, without this
not.
question being answered. Otherwise, they're gonna be designing
Right.
one way or another in the wrong direction.
So even if we vote
conceivably
today,
wrong.
right.
If you voted tonight and then conditional on what, Ellen's meeting on Wednesday, and that's favorable, we could start then. But if you
Right.
want to wait till next week, that's a week's not gonna, we waited this long, we can wait another week, but if it just keeps snowballing, time is money in terms of cost of construction.
Is it also true if she meets with them on Wednesday and they just say absolutely not, you can proceed?
Good
Is
to
that
go,
true?
yeah, yep,
Okay.
very true. Good to
Okay.
go.
Tom and Lynn, John Cunningham has his hand up.
Oh, he does? I don't see him. Okay, John.
Yeah, I think we ought to look at the 32.2 million that approved by town meeting as a hard cost right now. And the potential for that being increased, I think we'd almost have to go back to town meeting and get more money. So I don't know how you're going to move money around to make all this happen. And so I think we need to have a good discussion about going back to town meeting and asking for more money. Or maybe we look at, I hate to say it, but in making all this stuff happen, actually reducing the scope a little bit. I mean, that may be the trade-off. I'd hate to go to town meeting under the current climate of, the current financial condition that we're in as a town with the override coming up. Not sure about that. And a lot of these grants and things we're not sure of. A lot of it's what if. Is that going to happen? Are we going to get it afterwards? I don't know how in the world that we can, as a town, move forward on this with that kind of uncertainty and for a large amount of money. So I think the discussion I would have is how can we do the project for 32 million until we can get the approval of town meeting for more money?
We
I
don't
don't
need
know
more money,
how we
John.
can, I don't know how we can do that.
John, we don't need more money. We have enough money to have a variable refrigerant system. We don't have enough money to have the most efficient geothermal system. We don't need to go back to town meeting. No one will ever entertain that. And we don't have the flexibility and funding capacity to go with the best system, but we can choose our second best and we can go forward and not require any more funding.
Yes, it's just a question of the trade-off, whether you want to wait and possibly maximize the other scenario with a little more information, or whether we need to move forward now for other reasons.
Well, I thought there was a meeting on Wednesday where this was going to be discussed. I mean,
there is, and
I believe we should at a minimum wait until that. And
Well,
also remind everybody that this was budgeted for. We had 3.2 million for sustainability, including 1.5 million in the budget for extra money for geothermal. So it isn't that town meeting hasn't already approved this.
So
The
next
meeting is-
week's select board's meeting is next Tuesday night, and so Ellen is, well, Ellen, go ahead if you want to talk about.
Well, you know, the meeting on Wednesday is a management meeting with Kristen and Dan. And, you know, they may not feel that there's any avenue to float this money up front and wait for the rebate at the end of the project. In which case, you know, the select board, you know, is the overseen body under the town warrant language, and they would like to know how we're doing and how this project is proceeding. And, you know, we've had other issues. The plumbing code has changed, and we have to have solar ready roof. And, you know, so even since the time that we fashioned this budget for the vote in the fall of 22, there have been changes to the construction and the design landscape that we now have to incorporate into this building. So the good news is we have enough money to go with the original design. And if we can't manage to figure out a way to go with geothermal, then it's an option we should leave behind and, you know, proceed while we're still saving money and going forward.
Couldn't we meet Thursday after you've met Wednesday and vote?
Well, I see on the agenda that the plan was to have a meeting next Wednesday. With the
Yes, after we go to the select board. I'm just not sure that even in a week we'll know if there's a way to fund this. I don't know.
Yeah, and I kind of feel the same way too. And it's, you know, and meanwhile, we'll continue to keep our design team on hold. And I don't know, at some point, we've got to make a decision. You know, and if it means if we can't get the guarantees, that we need to proceed, then we'll just have to make the decision and move on with the VRF system.
I think John has input again, and I'll try to stay quiet.
Well, I see Lynn's got her hand up, but I don't see John. Lynn, go ahead, and then John, and if you have another comment.
Oh, I lowered my hand, I thought.
Oh, yeah, no, it's still up. Okay, Lynn?
You're muted.
Yep, I just was wondering if people would be comfortable with voting to present the estimates that we've presented here today to the town management, not necessarily saying which one we recommend, but present this and then explain the problem we have with cash flow. And that's it. Because the numbers kind of speak for themselves, because they show which is cheapest in the long run. So all we're voting on is to present this data to the town and let the data kind of speak for itself in terms of our recommendation, and ask for their input on how to handle the cash flow, if it can be handled.
Well, I think they're expecting a recommendation from this group, so I mean, I don't see any concern about if that's what this group wants to recommend, that we proceed, with the ground source heat pump under the, under the condition that the town needs to determine, and just, make, with the understanding that will create a a short-term budget impact that the town needs to determine how we can, continue to proceed until we
Okay.
get some sort of confirmation that,
Well, it's a timing impact, it's not a budget impact. The budget wouldn't change. It's a timing of how we get the funding for the budget that.
well, correct. Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Scott. Yeah.
I'm
Nancy?
ready. I agree.
Yeah, all right. We have Nancy's got her hand up.
I just think that given the distrust and the malarkey out there over the budget and the mess that we perceive to be in right now, it isn't a good look for us to vote to support something that brings us even for a minute outside what we've already approved. I think the best thing to do is let her, Ellen mesh this out with Kristen and Dan. Maybe they'll say on Wednesday, yes, we can figure this out, or no, we can't. There's not a chance. And then we'd know. I just don't think it's a good optic at this moment to be floating any money out there when we're talking about cutting police and fire out of the budget. It's got to come from somewhere. It's got to come from somebody's pocket. And if we have that money in a pocket that it can come out of, the rest looks bad. I'm not comfortable. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, good point. Glenn?
A couple things. We're not deciding anything. So if you're saying it's a bad optic to even make a recommendation to the select board, okay. But do we even know what the town budget implications would be if we needed the additional upfront money? You're saying it has to come from somewhere, it'll be cut from somewhere else in the operating budget. Do we even know that's how the short-term cash flow, or not short-term, but short-term cash flow issue would be resolved? Or
will they borrow it?
I heard at one point that there might be ways within the town's accounting system
To bond it, right?
It
Which
would
means
probably
borrow.
be- Right, would probably be a short-term bond, but the question is waiting for that rebate for that bond. I think this is why I really do have to talk with Kristen and Dan. Because having the capacity to front the money and then recovering it later does keep it as a neutral cost, but it does mean more upfront money before the project is totally bonded in a long-term bond. I just don't know if bond counsel would go along with it. I just think we need some more legal advice and some bond counsel advice as well.
What would you recommend, Ellen? Do we vote or do we wait?
I think at this point we should wait until after I've talked with Kristen and Dan. If they don't see any way to do this, then we know to tell Feingold Alexander, we can have a meeting on the 10th and we can say, go ahead with VRF.
Okay.
We're fine waiting a week. We hope it works out. We're happy to go either way, geothermal or VRF.
All right. I think, so we don't need to, we don't need to take a vote to not, to not take a vote.
Great.
All right. All right.
Go
Good
for it.
discussion. Obviously it's, obviously a very sensitive subject. Giving as everybody, had chimed in, with everything else going on right now in town with the budgets, the timing of town meeting, potential cuts. I think, we need to, we as a group need to be sensitive to that, and let's see how things play out, and appreciate Feingold Alexander and their team by holding off a little bit longer, and hopefully we can give some direction for next week. Okay. So I believe that hits all of the agenda items. So the upcoming meeting dates are, so the joint presentation on April 9th. So Ellen Rainville will be taking the lead on that. Potential for meeting on the 10th. I guess I'm assuming Ellen Rainville, is that going to be like to be determined depending on?
Yes, if we need to take a vote, I'll post it no matter what.
Okay. Okay. And then the next scheduled library working group meeting is on April 17th. All right. With that, is there any other new business or old business that Jim Segowitz?
What do we plan to discuss on that next working meeting?
I'm sorry, what?
What do we expect to be discussing at that next meeting? I'm just trying to throw some.
So
get some
between now
expectations out
and well, so on Tuesday night, the 9th, a week from Tuesday, the next select board meeting. So Ellen Rainville is will be making a presentation to the select board just on the status of the project. But in the interim, she'll be meeting with the town manager and the finance director to discuss, get some further clarification on whether or not we could proceed and how we could proceed with with the recommended mechanical system option, given everything that we just discussed tonight. So we're anticipating that either by next Tuesday night select board meeting or by next Wednesday that we'll have some clarification as to whether or not we could even consider proceeding with the ground source heat pump option, or if we need to just now fall back with our go with the VRF system, which was included in the original budget, and then give direction to the design team to proceed under that option
on the 15th at the next meeting.
on the 10th.
Okay.
That's tentatively our this group's joint meeting. Correct, Ellen? Did I?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
All right.
Okay.
And then
We thought
the
we would have
following,
something.
right, and then the following week is the next scheduled library working group meeting. That's not with the joint boards. That's just the working group meeting.
All right. Just trying to see if there's anything we can double up. It does seem like the weeks will tick by,
Okay.
and unfortunately waiting for this financial decision.
Okay.
But it is what it is.
Okay. And then April 27th right now is tentatively the next is the annual town meeting. If that.
Can we jump off now? Do you need the design team any longer?
No, we're all good. I think we're ready
Okay.
we're all ready to adjourn unless anybody has anything else.
I just would like to say I strongly suggest that somebody get the historic commission back in the loop sooner rather than later.
We plan on that, Jim. As soon as
Throw
we get
something out at
going.
them 2 weeks from now is we are starting to get desperately too late. Good.
Okay. All
Thank
right,
you.
if we don't have any, thank you to Financial Alexander and their
Yes,
team.
thank you all.
And then we don't have any other business. Can I get a motion to adjourn
So moved.
by Nancy? Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, who was that? I
Jim.
heard two. Chris Karpinski, second. Okay, roll call, Buffy.
Sorry, Claremont,
I,
Dirks, I, Fleckner,
Aye.
Roach,
Aye.
Secor,
Aye.
Teal,
Aye.
Cook,
Aye.
Hazelton,
Aye.
Karpinski,
Aye.
Hannah,
Aye.
Roberts,
Aye.
Zegowitz,
Aye.
1200.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody. I know this is, this is could be confusing and maybe, a little frustrating, but I think, we need to go through this process here. Make sure we're making the best decision, not only for the project, but also for the town. So thank you all for your cooperation and for, your discussion on this. So have a great night and we'll look forward to meeting again next week.
Second that, Tom. Good night.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night.
Trustees are staying on.